Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. We were really quick. This coming session of the Roundtable is very important question. What criteria and rules should we have in place in order to identify the members of the selection committee? Let us keep in mind that the committee will be entrusted with the tremendous task of finding the Teslas. In the word today, in order to recognize, as I read, through the first Earth's supreme level award, a combination of talent and hard work that can make a significant contribution to improving human society. I personally really think that we are looking here for original minds with unique projects. I would be delighted to, of course, hear your opinion, and that's the topic of our session, concerning the optimal way to structure the selection committee. For me, there are some fundamental principles and conditions that need to be in place for the committee to successfully carry out its mandate. I think that the members of the selection committee should themselves be role models, inspiring others through their ethically sound and scientifically rigorous approach to life in general and work in particular, as well as established reputation of the members of the selection committee would ensure a high visibility and profile of the committee itself. But we need also young people in the committee, young talents with a high value system. The fundamental criteria guiding the selection of members of the committee should be based on the need to have a multinational, multidisciplinary, pluralistic, and independent composition. Here, I have to mention the role of gender balance in the committee. Having an adequate representation of women in the committee will be an important step towards ensuring in real practice and in the general public's perception that women candidates for the prize are given a fair consideration. This is a crucial factor for achieving and maintaining high ethical standards for the operation of the committee. In this context, it's eye-opening to look at some of the statistics concerning the status of women in scientific and research enterprise. And we deal with this topic at UNESCO every day. Globally, women make up only 1/4 of researchers. In Europe, women represent only 30% of researchers and only 80% of full professors. Even if the number of female researchers is growing faster than that of men, the underrepresentation of women in scientific disciplines and careers remains a serious challenge for all of us. The fight for gender equality has been a critical part of UNESCO's mandate, and the organization has been committed to women's empowerment and gender equality for many decades. Last but not the least, it's critical that the adopted methodology for the selection of the committee members is sufficiently transparent in order for the committee and its decision-making to remain beyond all reproach. So these were just my introductory ideas, which I was very happy to share with you. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. Now, what we are talking about is, of course, very well written here for us. Which are the most useful skills a committee member should possess? What mechanism should be used for identifying potential committee members? What should be the ideal composition, size, etc. of the committee? Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. First, which are the most useful skills the committee members should possess? Mr. Brown, or yours, sir? Yes. Who just said that Tesla doesn't sound very well in California, right? You just said that Tesla as a name doesn't sound very well in California.
Yeah.
You know, in our life, Tesla was very important because that was really the first tape recorder we had in Eastern Europe. It sounds very good.
Check.
That's diversity.
I'm sorry, will you recognize me to make another comment? I would like to do.
Mr. Brown, okay.
Sorry. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is awake and has enjoyed their lunch. I was on the list to make comments in the preceding discussion, and so but some of them are apropos to the current discussion topic. I like to do what I call word games, which is word associations as a way of exploring concepts. And our task in the past session was the qualities that meet the criteria for nominees. And so I just started thinking of the kinds of things that would represent that kind of an individual. And here are the following list. Genius, of course. Intellect, gifted, brilliant, outstanding, extraordinary, exceptional, remarkable, surprising, outstanding, unexpected, unforeseen, unpredictable, visionary, and imaginative. That, I think, not only applies to the nominee, but I think it should apply to the folks who will be making the decisions about the nominee. The other comment I want to make, and unfortunately I must leave you, I could not change my playing reservation, so as soon as I'm finished making these comments, I will be leaving. Deals with how this selection should happen, and I suggest building on what someone said, a two-stage, a three-stage process. The first is a nomination that must include a demonstration of accomplishments. I think we all agree on that. The second stage is a submittal of a package by the potential awardee on the transformative nature of his/her future work, if awarded the prize, so that the prize is given for a forward-thinking work project that transcends boundaries. And the third stage is an interview and lecture. And it may be that we could actually bring the top 3 candidates or the top 5 candidates to Schlitt or wherever the foundation is to hold a series of lectures. First, to make sure that the nominee is capable of expressing herself and bringing the kind of respect and reputation that's necessary for an award like this. That's my comments. This has been the most enjoyable morning of my life. I appreciate it all very much. I hope that I get to see all of you again very soon.
Thank you very much, and we wish you a safe journey, bon voyage, back. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Hill. Yeah, the floor is yours, sir.
The subject under conversation is the criteria for the selection committee members. And Chair Lady, you yourself advanced some very important ones. I would just like to add flexibility of mind. Flexibility of mind. It is typical, and research shows, that those people who are the kind of people who would be awardees tend to be inflexible of mind. They are single-minded, they are focused, they are driven to an objective, a cause, or a purpose. But on the selection committee, having someone who believes that the only important issue is communications, or food, or space development, or energy, or sustainability, or peace in the world, any such person on the committee would be extremely disruptive to the committee process. Instead, the people should be broadly based, and therefore probably not themselves likely winners of such an award, but rather people with very broad minds. Then I would like to just mention and offer a contrary perspective on transparency. It's not clear to me that transparency is a good idea in a selection process of this sort. However, this is important to shape, because transparency means that the participants in the selection and nomination process are all known to their colleagues and their friends, and therefore subject to political and group and social pressures. Perhaps better to isolate the process rather than to make it transparent. This is not a process of public governance, after all. It's a private kind of process that should be followed. The last thing I'd just like to put on the table is we've made zero mention this morning of using 21st century media as a method of either identifying or selecting participants at any point along the road. But if you were asked the hypothetical 20-year-olds that we've been talking about today, how would you find the best people in the world, the most creative, smartest, most driven people? They would say, well, I'll go to Facebook. I'll go to LinkedIn. I'll go on the web. I'll do a search. I'll do a wisdom of the crowds and things. I wouldn't get 30 old men and women in a room. I would go to social media. So I don't have a concrete suggestion, but I think we have to bring in the possibility that it's really it's an emergent process based on the web rather than a group of people in a room making a selection.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned really the flexibility of mind or the open mind, which is very important for a person sitting in this committee, and you argued that no real transparency is important. I think we can argue on that. I think it is important personally, and that we should really use the 21st century media in that. I would now like to give the floor to Governor Mehta.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, let me comment on what Mark Brown suggested were the attributes that a person on the committee should have. Actually, if we look for all those attributes, we will have to find a good genetic engineer to design an individual who will be able to serve on the committee. Be as it may, I have 3 or 4 concrete suggestions which I would like to look in the members of the committee. I think first and foremost for a member of the committee is to have an outlook that transcends disciplinary and geographical boundaries. So the first suggestion is the people on the committee should have an outlook that transcends disciplinary and geographical boundaries. The second, people on the committee must have sound, sustained international experience and association with leading international organizations or bodies. The third, of course, has been mentioned, and I can only reiterate this, people of impeccable integrity, independence, and to bring credibility to the process should also have high visibility in their own right. So we need people not only with integrity and independence, but their visibility will greatly enhance the process of selection. I would have some comments to also make. How do we go about identifying potential committee members? And I would like to suggest that we should have a mix of people, some, as I mentioned, with association with international organization, but we should also have a mix of people from academia, from corporate world, from NGOs, and so on. We can discuss about the possible numbers which will be involved, but I think it's too premature to talk about.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as we just already talked about at the beginning, that it's very important that it's a transboundaries exercise that we are talking about, and obviously to be a role model, to be visible already on his or her own right is also very important. And of course, it has been already mentioned, the independence and integrity of the person itself. I just would like to give the floor now to Professor Weiler, because our computer broke down. Probably Tesla could do something about it.
Long multiple choice question.
Yes, Professor.
Thank you very much for having the word. So, it's personal remark. I am allergic to all the superlatives which have been used that these people should have. This is, to me, completely nonsense. Yeah? So, even coming from famous business schools or famous world institutions, most of them are part of the problem we have than rather the solution. Yeah? So I have not to give names, but that's reality. So as to the profile, which is the question, and in my first remark I made in the previous sessions, that we should find, I don't know how, but we should find people which are independent, are not prisoner from the system in which they operate. This is not easy. I certify that. But we have enough people with systems that one of the problems we face today. Yeah? And so, and the media listen to what is said, to the systems. And we are on the way. So I think if that is not to try to get out of it, that there will be not an appropriate committee to judge and to attribute someone and honor someone who needed unless what I have suggested. So thank you.
Professor, if I may, I just would like to clarify. So we don't need, according to your ideas, we don't need this high profile of personalities because they would just be trapped to your company. So what are the attributes that we are looking for? What are the attributes of the people we are really looking for?
Well, I mentioned you didn't like the word you referred to Nobel Prize. I do agree with you. However, I mentioned the existence of an alternative Nobel Prize attributed by a Swedish colleague. Sutton, I know him, he gave a talk in Brussels, etc. So there are people, they gave the parallel Nobel Prize. They have the profile, I think, yeah, that type of profile. There we find some inspiration. They have not been recognized. They are not in the system. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about sustainability and others. So we have to talk it as far as I could understand. So there we need guidance. We face the earth, humanity, humankind is facing terrible problems. And if we have to try to anticipate on those who provide solutions. But we have to recognize, I think, that we are running against the wall with the systems we have. Yeah? So, I don't know if I am clear enough, but so we have to be anti-system and find people. There are people, I think, but we have to be sure that we look to the right way.
Thank you very much. As I'm planning to run this roundtable, we have got 3 points, and we would like to spend the time with each point, not mixing them, because these are very clear questions. So at the moment, we are really talking about the sort of most useful skills, and our next is Dr. Skouridis. Yes.
Thank you very much. Actually, I think that the questions that we are trying to address are combined and interrelated. First of all, if there is, let's say, the selection of the sufficient growth, there's a level where people say, concept nominating, or you have nomination, you may end up having 1,000 applications. Can a committee of 5 people go through it in one time? No. So basically, they are interrelated questions that need to be addressed. That's from my experience as I use different guys. What I find very important is that screening of the applicants by the technocratic committee that can do due diligence. Basically, make sure that the application or whatever that is submission actually makes sense before that is processed further, and then there is some kind of pre-screening. And then you have essentially the jury that can be a very high-level people, that they have to do much less work in terms of selecting for a vast number of applications. It's 3 or 4 applications that they really have to discuss it. So these are my suggestions in terms of the mechanism. So technocratic, kind of review due diligence, and then like high-level, very high-profile people that will be part of it.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Madame Cristina Thurston. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd just like to add a few qualities that have not been mentioned, and one quality that has been mentioned I think should be underlined even more. Because so many good criteria and qualities have been mentioned by yourself and Chair and by Mr. Metal and others. And what I'm thinking of is what's called the lateral thinking. It has to do with a holistic view and being, having an outlook that transcends disciplinary boundaries, and of course geographical boundaries should be included in that. But lateral thinking, holistic view, I think is important. And that this person that sits in this committee, also he or she is by her or his living, contributing to the change that the prize or the award is trying to achieve. That the committee members themselves in practice live the talk, walk the talk, and live the message, or at least that they have done it in their life. And then the other quality that I was thinking of is that, of course, that people should come from all over the world, but that each one has strong networks, quality-wise and wide networks. The quality and size of the personal networks. Because through them, each committee member will be able to contribute much more than by visitors or personal contacts. But to be in touch with big networks is important. And if you have that kind of people in the committee, it really doesn't have to be very big. And if it's not too big, you have a group that can really discuss and be close. So, I mean, people from 5 continents means that there will be a number of people. And with strong networks, it doesn't have to be 40 or 20 people, or maybe not even 10, I don't know. So that was, I think, what I would like to add to this point.
Thank you very much. Very valuable points. I think the lateral thinking and the holistic way of thinking for the people sitting in the committee would be really very important. And I think that the point, having people with strong personal networks would really make that valuable application for everybody to sit at the committee as well. Because now probably we could also continue to think about what kind of mechanism should be used for identifying these committee members. Yeah, Monsieur Jupin, the floor is yours.
2 points. The first, dealing with the skills. So people say, some people say open-minded, and I think it's critical. I think we need a kind of wisdom to be able to understand the world and the human complexity. Because very often we say we need to ask to young people, but very often some young people are not, it's not easy for them to fight against hype and fashion. So we need also people able to really understand what would be the fair solution to face things. We need also people who are able to have a kind of rebels, to say out of the system as rebels, creative people, people who have mastered his or her ego. So obviously nobody could really answer to that. So the problem is not to have a Superman improvement, but to have a mixture of different skills into the committee. The second point is I think we need three things for the committee. First, in different countries, we need to set up networks. In order to understand, for example, our Chinese friends propose to work on harmony. I think it is different, we have different way to say things in Europe, in China, in India. So we need people into the country and perhaps able to help to promote, to propose some candidates. The second thing is we need a kind of, let's say, they call it a Senate. That means people who are able to give the orientation of the prize, but not to be member of the committee. And these people are able to select the people of committee. The condition that if they are in the Senate, they don't belong to the committee. So I think it could help to have an orientation in the long term, and also to renew the people of the committee, let's say to 3 to 4 years. And the third point is the committee itself, with let's say 20, 30 people. I think people of the banks have some experience of that, can use this as experience. But the three levels are very critical for us. People, a lot of people, and if we want to develop the spirit of the prize, we need to have more people involved in the country. They could help us to be more diversified. The Senate, people who have the wisdom in order to give the orientation and to select and renew the committee.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to give the floor to Professor Schöpflin. Schöpflin, sorry. Sorry.
Yes, I have the advantage of the idea comes to me. Thank you very much, Chair. Even better, thank you. It's about the qualities that we're talking about. But first of all, it seems to me that the members should be equal insofar as that's possible to establish in terms of the articulacy, the social skills, the decision-making skills, fluency, etc. Otherwise, I think this is Parkinson's fourth law, the person who knows most about it remains silent. And that, of course, is a real problem. The second point, there should be a kind of genuine, not pluricultural awareness of the sensitivities of other cultures, the people who come from other cultures, how they see things, so that your own norms, this comes back to the system, being captives of system. Culture as a system in this sense should be capable of transcending their own norms and understanding